All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Melanin Margin, the weekly chat show where conversations about race are never off the table. We're your hosts, Quaviondre Williams.
And Daquon Wilson.
So let's get into this week's conversation. What's hot on the table this week? Now, in an article written on CNN Politics, we learned that the Supreme Court announced on Monday, January 24th, that it will reconsider race based affirmative action in college admissions, a move that could eliminate campus practices that have widely benefited Black and Hispanic students. The justices said that they will hear challenges to policies at Harvard and the University of North Carolina that use race among many criteria to decide who should gain a coveted place in an entering class. Race-based affirmative action over the past 40 years has helped boost the admissions chances for many traditionally disadvantaged racial minorities. In the case against Harvard, the challengers say that those same practices have hurt Asian American applicants. Chief Justice John Roberts, for his part, has long opposed racial policies in education. It is a sordid business, this divvying us up by race, he wrote in a 2006 voting rights dispute. The following year, when the majority invalidated two public school integration plans, he wrote, "The way to stop discrimination on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race." The Students for Fair Admissions challengers, who lace their arguments with such statements from Roberts and other conservatives, argue that screening students based on race, even to fulfill educational goals, constitutes an unlawful discrimination. So I wanted to ask you, Daquon, do you believe that colleges should get rid of affirmative action policies in order to create colorblind admissions?
Ooh. Listen, when I saw that you put this on the docket, I was like, she know exactly what she's doing. She know because I am so tired of this debate. I am so tired. I am exhausted from conversations about affirmative action because, being frank, like 90% of stuff like this is from ignorance, complete, utter ignorance. And I think that, going towards the question, getting rid of affirmative action policies, like, no, like, what is color blindness? Like, really, if you believe that we can be a colorblind society, like, you are probably part of the problem. Like, color blindness is racism. And I just think that it's crazy.
Pop off!
I just think that it's crazy, these sort of things that's just like, oh, we have to stop racial discrimination by just like not accounting for race at all. And it's like, if you really do your research about affirmative action, you will see so many different figures and statistics that show the people who benefit most from affirmative action are white women. So when you're like, oh, well, like, this causes racial problems, it's like, white women are the people who benefit most from this. Yet they're also the people who hate it the most, which is like this odd dichotomy that I don't understand. But you know what? Go off. But I absolutely don't think that colorblind admissions processes are the way to go. Because when we think about college admissions today, it is so biased and so, opposing to Black and brown individuals. Like, we have to start with test scores. So like, yeah, sure, some colleges are being like, oh, well, like, we're not going to require test scores anymore. They're going to be optional. And it's like, yeah, but a lot of colleges still require those test scores. And if you come from a Black and brown background, statistically speaking, you are underprepared for these standardized tests because the standard is whiteness. The standard is white education. And if you are not getting that white education, you're not going to meet that standard. So that's why you see so many Black and brown students not have the test scores. Or even, let's be honest, so many of them do, and they still don't, get that same opportunities because you have to work twice as hard to get half as much. White mediocrity is like the standard of our society today. And so what happens is so many times, like, you have to understand that race impacts people's lives. If you believe that we can be a colorblind society, that is a privilege, because color does not affect you. I cannot live in a colorblind society because my race has so many impacts on my everyday life. Like, there are opportunities that, happen to me more often because of my race. And you have to figure that into when you're, you know, doing an admissions offer. Like, you can't just be like, all right, GPA, check, test scores, check, extracurriculars, check. Okay, we're good. Like, there's so many different barriers to education because a lot of Black and brown households are low income. So students may be working 2, 3 jobs to help support their parents. How are they supposed to do all of these extracurriculars, be the president of student council, treasurer of the volunteer organization, everything like that? Like, that is hard. Like, and I know that because, like, I was that student that just, like, went ham on everything to try to be the best that I can be for college admissions. Like, Quaviondre can attest, I was every like, I was every club. I had leadership positions on that. And even in college, I felt that as a Black person, I had to do so much more
That
to
pressure.
just, like, meet the standard of all of my white peers at my elite PWI. So, like, there was a year where, like, I had like 2 jobs, I had an internship, I was on 5 exec boards, like, and a full course load. I was
Lord.
wearing myself into the ground to try to meet that standard because I was also thinking about grad school. And I was like, there are so many people who have all different types of opportunities. They don't have to work in college, so they have so much more time
Yeah.
to devote to doing research and all of these different things. That's a leg up because they don't have to do what I'm doing. And so when you have these arguments against affirmative action, you are literally part of the problem. If you are against it, I'm sorry, but, like, you're ignorant. And I said
This
what I said.
and I said, period. I don't need to
And I don't
but
need to elaborate.
but no, I fully agree with you, Daquon. I think that this, honestly, I'm just so tired of this argument of like, oh, I don't want to see color. People are people. I don't care if you're Black, brown, purple, orange, bitches. We're not a rainbow. It's not a rainbow. Okay, there's no purple people as far as we know. Okay, stop bringing in other colors that don't exist.
If your skin is green, you have a problem.
Like, so it's to me, this is an argument, like you said. I'm just so tired of having to fight this argument, but I will keep fighting and keep getting the fuck up every day to do it because we know it has to be done. But this whole I don't see color thing is inherently racist. This whole colorblind society is inherently racist because we all know that the reason why people say that is because, again, whiteness is the standard. Whiteness is the white mediocrity is the standard. And so we know that in our society, white people are disproportionately are a portion like this. Black and brown people are disproportionately less likely to be able to enter into these institutions, and white people are more so likely to get into these institutions often. And they are the ones that this is less likely for them to be affected by anything. Like, they can have not the best grades, they can have not all the classes in the different clubs and stuff like that, because the system is made for white success. We know that. And so it frustrates me that we are still not aware as a society, as a whole, out of all of the fights that Black and brown people have done to say, hey, see us, know us, hear us, we are here. You know what I'm saying? All of these fights that we have done over time. And like I said, this is what just further perpetuates the conversation we've always said, is that white supremacy is still a thing. It's still a big, big thing. And it's still a big problem because if you notice, the people who are against affirmative action are white.
Hello.
Race does not affect them in the same way that it affects people of color. So in their eyes, it's like, oh, well, why should black and brown people get an leg up because they're black and brown? That shouldn't be a whatever. And the reason why they're able to do that, that is a product of white privilege. You are
Right.
privileged to live in a society where your race is not a deteriorating factor into your quality of life.
And not to cut you off, but even if the person against affirmative action is a person of color, 9 times out of 10, they're just trying to get that white supremacy bag. They're trying to
you
get
already
that
know.
check.
Yes.
You already
Candace
know.
Owens. I'm sorry. Oh goodness. That's I don't know what that was.
Shade.
But yeah, Christian Walker. Oh, Jesus. Oh, so sorry. Anyway, I don't know what that was. I have to get that checked out. But like I was saying, I think that when it comes to this conversation specifically, I think that affirmative action being even up for debate is just further pushing the dial backward. And
Right.
and instead of trying to create an admissions council that doesn't see color, the focus should be trying to create an admissions council that is more diverse. That's the first problem. That's the first issue right there, because we know the people who are making the decisions, the people who are making the statements about who can and can't get into the college are usually what? White, cis, straight men.
Right. Also upper class, probably.
Upper class usually as well. So like it just, the fact that we are not even understanding the fact that the reason why this is such a problem, the reason why affirmative action had to be put into place in the first place was because Black and brown and people of color are not being allowed into these institutions. And the reality is that's because we are not allowing for the spaces for people of color to occupy the table. And I hate this whole thing of, well, just go to your own or just make your own. Bitch, we shouldn't have to. That's the problem. Is that we shouldn't have to make our own. We should be able to get into these fancy institutions without having to have these policies in place. But the reality is that's not the society that we live in. I would love to live in a society where being Black wasn't an immediate detriment to my life. I would love to live in a society where I could get pulled over by a police officer and believe I'm being protected. I'm being kept safe. I would love to be at a job wearing locks, wearing braids, wearing X, Y, and Z, and not have someone see me as not as intelligent or as not smart. All these things, all of these preconceived notions around people of color, this is a thing. I would love for it not to be. I would love for us to stop talking about race. I would love that this show wouldn't even have to exist. But it does, because why? Racism is a problem. And this affirmative action policies need to be in place in order to protect people of color, in order to keep us in these spaces, in order to keep us hopefully one day getting a seat at these tables. But like I said, there's always going to be dumb people. I just want to ask you, Daquon, just for argument's sake, I want to ask you, do you think there should be a quota that has to be met in schools in regards to race?
No. Bullshit. I think that it's some bullshit. But I really do think that a lot of times when we have conversations about affirmative action, quotas get brought up because people feel like affirmative action is like this quota type system already. Or it's like, oh, well, like if we don't have this, then like, are y'all gonna just like have quotas be like, we need X amount? Like, no, like that's crazy talk, and like it's not going to work. Like having a certain percentage of your student population being Black is not going to add real diversity. Like if anything, is going to create some fabricated mess. And I also believe that, you know, while we're not like matching quotas, if you have an institution, regardless whether it's a college, university, or even just like a business, if the population of students or the population of workers does not reflect the population of the area surrounding it, that should click something in your mind to be like, why is that? You know, why is it that we have all of these students from across America applying to our university and our student population isn't representative of America? Why is it that we have students across the globe even applying to our prestigious university and our population is still just like very, 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 very white? That should click something in your mind to be like, what is it about our process that's like pushing certain populations off? And that is why affirmative action is still needed, because there needs to be, you know, something in these policies to be able to be like, we are not going to discriminate based off race. We are going to hold ourselves accountable, making sure that we are not discriminating on race, on gender, on ability, sex, national origin, all of these different things, and making sure that our campuses are representative of the areas that people come from, and not just like the whiteness and white society that our university was founded on.